I have a whole lot of people in my social media circle that really love it when I post about my updates on medication and depression and bipolar, and it's almost like they're hanging out for the next post all the time because no one else talks about it, or not enough people, or at least people they don't know might talk about it on websites and stuff. But I think they feel more comfortable reading it coming from me because they know of me or know me in real life. And yeah, I've had a few messages recently, that people asking for an update. Um,
What's the curiosity?
I
Or
think
what's the driving thing?
I just think it makes them feel better to know that someone they know is going through something similar to them, as opposed to, they can go on YouTube, they can go to some health site and read up about their disorders, but coming from someone that they've known for some time might make it feel more real, might make it feel more like something that they can actually put a bit of time into reading and understand.
And would this be people that have bipolar as well, or just
Yeah, yeah,
mental
just
illness in general, or
well,
the
just
whole scope of just anyone?
I think it's just anyone. It's people that I don't know. Like, a guy reached out to me the other day, and has been going through suicidal thoughts, and um, his wife left him. She's divorced him, and now she's claiming a rape case against him. So he's hit rock bottom. And I read that like first thing in the morning. I got up in the morning, checked my messages, and it was there. And fuck, it was just such a shit day for me to start the day. I'm not qualified for this stuff. Like, I'm not a
That's a bit
therapist.
heavy.
Yeah, man. It was like I hadn't even had my morning coffee yet, and I'm chatting to a guy who, I didn't want to ignore him. Like, that's horrible. You can't ignore someone who's screaming out for help. So we chatted for like maybe 10, 15 minutes, and at the end of that conversation, he was just very thankful to be able to speak openly because he hasn't been able to talk to anybody about it. I
How
said,
many people have like come to you with these problems?
a lot, man. I think ever since I just started talking about it, ever since I was because I was having suicidal thoughts myself, and I just was really looking for an exit in life. And I really just really wanted to hop off the bus, hop off the train or whatever the term is. Like, I just wanted to hit the eject button. And all my closest friends and family, every time I was catching up with them, which is always at my place, because at that stage I was housebound. Um, I just couldn't stop saying over and over again that I was over it, just over everything. Um, my mom, of all people, took it the hardest. She's never seen me like that before. And
Did you openly say
oh
those
yeah,
with
yeah,
that language to your mouth?
yeah. I just
That's
kept saying
kind of
to my
weird.
mom, I'm fucking over it. And like, in retrospect, like, she kept coming over to my house. Like, she's got the keys to my house. So I'd just be like, I didn't sleep in my bed for a whole year. I was sleeping on the couch or on the floor or whatever, and constantly watching watching heavy metal bands that I used to love, and I'd be crying nonstop. I'd listen to like a Chris Cornell, like a Soundgarden song, and just cry at will, and I'd have
Yeah.
some mates over, and I'd put on like a Led Zeppelin performance and start crying in front of them. I think I was freaking people out. And in the end, my mum just said, I'd love to take you to a therapist. And that was the beginning of, getting back on track. Just seeing a therapist for 6 months or more.
Mm. And
Um,
when I'm sorry, I can't remember because we talked about this period of your life last time,
oh, I don't
but I can't
remember
remember
either.
what caused it.
Yeah,
What?
just I've always been like, I'm a creative person, right? And have created a whole lot of businesses as well based off passion. Everything was just driven by passion. So I was always 100% in, and always put myself out there. And um, I've been smoking weed my whole life, but I think at one stage there I was smoking an ounce of weed a week, which is quite a lot. It's really expensive, and it's a lot to smoke. Like, it just really took a toll on my everyday kind of routine.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
constantly having a massage isn't like I don't think that would be a good thing.
no, it was horrible, man. Like I used to wake up from like whatever little sleep that I could get. I'd wake up to these weird noises, high pitched noises, and it turns out that it was my chest, like it was wheezing, like this high pitched kind of noise coming out of my own fucking throat, and it was horrible. And just I was just smoking bongs and my
Like
mouth just tasted like weed all the time. And I lost a lot of weight and I went down to 50 kilos. So I was like a skeleton. I wasn't
you're
eating
like
or sleeping.
it's like you were trying to become the one. So like in the States at least there's this argument where people who want pot to be fully legalized,
Oh, yeah.
we always say like, yeah, but no one's ever died from it, and you're over there in the
Oh,
corner like almost doing it. Like I'm
dude,
gonna.
even trying to stop smoking weed because your mates smoke it, right? So your best friends are smokers too. And then when you're trying to get out of smoking weed, and you're telling your best friends that like, oh man, I want to kind of cut down and stuff, they flame you for it because they feel like they hop on a defense because they're like, oh, fucking listen to you trying to trying to be Mr. Good Guy getting off weed. They feel like you're trying to say to them that like you should smoke less weed. But no, it was me. Like I was recognizing um that I had an issue here,
Yeah.
and that smoking that much can't have been good for me. It's not medicine anymore at that stage.
Do you? So this one guy was jumping in your inbox or whatever, telling you his
Mm,
problems.
mm.
It sounds like multiple people.
Lots of
Could we go
people.
over a couple of them, and then because in the show we jump a year, this
Yeah.
might it just might be interesting or good radio
Yep.
to be able
Yep.
to check back in on them. Do you think you'll be in contact with them in a year,
I think so. I think
or
they're not
maybe
the
just like one or two prime examples
well,
that you know?
I wouldn't drop their names, but they're the kind of people
Yeah, of course
that
not.
are definitely too shy to comment in public, right? Because I'm very public with everything that I do. So um when I post something, I don't get likes and comments on Facebook because people are too uh just they're too private for it. They haven't their skin's not thick enough to be able to say what they feel like saying in public. So they send me a private message. And that's why I get a
Yeah.
lot of private messages. Um
So
like
this first guy, he's having a
yeah.
hard time. His wife left him, and now she's pressing. I don't know if legally she's pressing charges
I
about.
don't know either. I mean, all I know it's enough for probably any guy on the planet to have severe paranoia and wonder if they're going to be thrown in jail. It's like I think that is a heavy weight to live with. But this guy, he still loves her and he has a kid with her too. So he has a daughter with her, and it's like he's hit rock bottom. Like he doesn't want to leave her. He thinks that she is his best friend. So um he's really at a low point, and he's seeking professional help. He has a therapist, and as soon as he told me that, I'm like, oh, thank God. Okay, let's speak some more, because I wasn't willing to speak to him if I was going to be, like a therapist, because I'm not. And sometimes with
Yeah,
these people,
especially since he like sought you out. You know.
yeah, but I think sometimes with these people, man, it's like how you're saying about like just checking back on people a year later. I think sometimes it gets so intense for these people that like just one person that can listen to them can make a big difference, because
Mm.
most people push it away. Most people, when I was going through the shit, a lot of my closest friends were not willing to talk about it because they were very uncomfortable about it. They
About
I
your
understand.
depression.
Yeah, I understand that. I even had one mate on Facebook openly just say, Justin, it's not real. And he started posting stupid memes and photos and really laid into me. I'm like that. I was so upset. I was so down. But then having a friend do it in public and burn me like that upset me even more. Like I think a whole lot of people out there don't think it's real. And I think I'm one of those people. I think before I um, was diagnosed with depression, I'm like one of those, rehab is for quitters guys. Like I don't believe in rehab, and I think you're a wuss if you think you have depression. It's not real. It's just a frame of mind. And I'm like, you're just an attention whore. You're just screaming for attention at that stage. And I don't think I believed it at all either. So I think I've become a person that if someone's seriously down, when they reach out to me, I am all ears. Like I have changed. I'm not judgmental at all. I don't judge them for being, oh, what you're going through isn't real. Or I'm not like a typical Aussie guy that's like, oh, don't worry, mate, she'll be right. You know,
Yeah.
that's what
Um,
most guys do. That's what most, especially guys.
I once asked my friend who's from Australia, I was like, what's like one phrase that like encapsulates Australia? And he said, shut the fuck up, you dumb cunt.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like toughen up, toughen up. You're weak cunt. Or it's so Aussie. It's like you need to go and drink some concrete or something. Like
Is that something people say? Go drink some
yeah, yeah, yeah,
concrete.
yeah. That's it. And it's like it's a real blokey bloke kind of, like Jimmy Barnes singing Working Class Man. And, if you shake someone's hand and it's soft, you're like, oh, fuck, you're not a real man. You got to have rough hands from working in the field all day or building houses and being a bricky laborer or something. It's like, I think it's a real Aussie thing to like not show
Well,
signs of weakness as a guy.
I think I feel Australia and America, or the United States, I should say. I think we have some. I think we're relatives. There's a colonial history. We're also really big. There's a lot of cars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like like a car based. We're both car based cultures.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, we did the same thing to the indigenous populations.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well, you
it's.
guys
I
don't
feel like we're
have
cousins.
well, you guys don't have like we have this huge thing called tall poppy syndrome, right? We were made aware of it at a very young age. If you played basketball better than anybody else, or if you were better in math than everybody else, then everyone just fucking hated you. It's like
Tall poppy.
tall poppy. So it's like, can you imagine a grass field full of
Okay.
flowers, and the one flower that grows a bit higher than everybody else gets chopped off. It gets lobbed off, cut off, and that's Australian culture. It's like they don't want you to stand up. If you stand out from the crowd, you'll get snipped and hated because just get back in line kind of thing.
Yeah.
Get fit
Who do
in
you
with
think you are?
everyone. Don't stop showing off or something. And America, what the difference with America is, you meet people in America, you talk about it, starting up a new business or something, and everyone's quite positive about it. They support you, they back you, like, whereas here you want to start a business, everyone's a bit pessimistic about it. They're
What
like,
the
no,
fuck?
I don't think that's going to work, bro. They'll start planting doubts because they don't want you to succeed.
Yeah, that is a big difference. I guess the thing is uh, we had a couple hundred years of slavery to make a whole bunch of money to instill in this false confidence in
Right.
ourselves. I think that's the big difference.
Oh man, it's funny.
Okay, we won't have to talk about stolen wealth. Do you have anyone else that has reached out to you,
Yeah, yeah, a lot. I have another guy
or
who's
like any favorite stories?
yeah, I think one other guy that I've known on and off for quite a few years now. It is like your show in that I only check in on him once a year, or a
Oh, that would
couple
be
of times a
interesting.
year. But
Well,
is
how was he? Let's do a quick little year by year by.
yeah. So it's been a few
How
years.
was he when you started talking with him?
When I first met him, I was running a business. It was probably 2011 or so. He came in. Um, he had a passion for photography, so he shot a whole lot of images of my business. But then he went a step further and actually printed out a book of the photos that he took and gave that to me. So he came across as a really passionate and generous person straight off the bat. But it didn't take too long before, if you add someone as a friend to Facebook, you see what they're posting, right? It comes up on your
Mm-hmm.
feed. And I was seeing that he was doing the desperate call for help. Like, I think when people are really depressed, they don't have a filter anymore because they don't care anymore. So he was hopping on and saying really horrible things, almost suggesting that he wanted to end his life in some of these posts. And every time I kind of saw him, I'd see him in a different light. Like, he would have his fingernails painted with nail polish and stuff. And I'm like, this guy's he's interesting. Like, he's going through stuff. You can tell it's like a cry for help. And um, he came along to a few events that I did that were photography related. And sadly, in real life, we never talked about it as much as on social media. So I think that's another running thing, is like, a lot of people that are going through it can't talk about it in real life, but
Mm-hmm.
social media allows us to feel a bit more comfortable. You've got this blinking cursor in front of you. Next thing you know, you're just typing what you feel, and
Yeah.
it's a bit
And
more
that's not bad, right? A
detached.
little bit of distance does help sometimes.
Yeah, but I think he's definitely one of those guys where, when I wasn't in a position where I was down and I was just running a business as usual and running my life as usual, if he was really down, I would have to end conversations with him. I think it took, if he was to reach out to me again now, and I haven't spoken to him in a while, but don't think I'd be the same. I think at that time I was really worried for him, but at the same time I was worried that again, I don't think I was qualified to converse with him on such a heavy subject. So I think now that I've gone through the ringer myself, I think him and I could sit down and have a better conversation about it. Um, but I
Mm.
have a lot of women too. A lot of women are going through it. I have a lot of people that reach out and they're on medication as well. And
Yeah.
um, it's funny because when I came out and said that I was diagnosed with bipolar, some of my closest friends that I've been friends with for quite some time reached out, and they'd be like, "Hey, Justin, are you free? I want to come over and catch up." And as soon as they did come over and see me face to face, they're like, "Hey, I've got fucking bipolar as well. Hooray!"
Yeah.
And it's almost like they felt like, "Thank God, I can talk about it with someone." And these people live their lives so. I had no idea that these people had bipolar. Like, this one girl,
That's wild.
River, she's such a cheery girl. She's so fun to hang out with. She's always laughing. She's always smiling. She's super cute. She's never let on that she had um, bipolar 1 at all until she came over, and she was even happy to come over and run some experiments with me because apparently in the first hour of her hanging over here that day, I didn't let her get a single word in because she's like, "Oh my God, Justin, you are so manic. Here, take one of your little pink pills as an experiment." She said she'd hang around and just for a few more hours and see what would happen. And she said within half an hour, I stopped talking so much and I started listening.
So the experiment was just taking the medication that you were prescribed?
Yeah, and just seeing it actually work within half an hour, I was so much more calm, and we were actually having a conversation as opposed to me just going a million miles an hour.
Mm.
So it was
And
quite
you
cool.
were on that for a bit of time, but you're no
Yeah,
longer on it now, right?
that's right. So I've been clean of medication for 3 months now, and that's against doctor's orders as well. I just throughout this entire experience, I have been changing my doses by myself, even though I was warned not to, and that it's very dangerous to. I'm a stubborn person, and I've always thought medication was for weak people, and I just really wanted to get off it because I don't want to see myself as being a weak person.
But I mean, I was talking to my friend today who has a bipolar diagnosis, bipolar
Mm.
2,
Okay.
and I was talking to him about his cognitive dissonance. He says certain things that he knows isn't true while he believes them at the same time. I don't think you think medication is for weak people, but at the same time,
Exactly. You're bang on. You just nailed it. Like I say it to say it to myself, not to others. It's really weird, but you just hit it on the head. It's like I say it to as a way to push me to achieve a goal.
well,
So
yeah,
I think,
last time we talked, you spoke about a certain artistic thing where you felt that the medication you were on, it helped you sleep, uh, but perhaps it was like tampering down that artistic aspect. Is that still
yeah,
what you think?
yeah, I've been so prolific again since getting off the medication. I'm back to um, there's just so much more electricity going through my brain, and my routine has gone out the window again too. So I think one thing that the medication does for you is to reinstall routine. So you have
Because of
a
like sleep cycles?
exactly, you have a certain time you eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and you have a certain time you sleep. And I think for a long time there, I was trying to convince my psychiatrist that this medication does nothing but knock me the fuck out. And as soon as I take it, I am out. Like half an hour after I take this pill, I have a 6 hour block of sleep. And I'd proven it too because I reduced my dosage on my own and realized, oh crap, I'm only getting 4 hours sleep now. If I reduce it some more, oh damn, I'm back to 2 or 3 hour naps. And so I could tell, and I was just trying to convince my psychiatrist that like this is bullshit. This pill, it's got nothing to do with my brain waves or depression or anxiety or anything. All it does is give me a routine again, and that's all I need.
Was
And
that the same medication from the story you told earlier about the experiment?
Uh, that was, yeah. I think initially I was on antidepressants, a drug called Efexor, and that was I was having a combination of that and the bipolar medication, which was quetiapine, and so I was on like a cocktail of those two. Um, and I think every man would feel the same way and be in agreement with me in when you wake up in the morning without an erection, it's scary. It is like you've been waking up as a man with an erection for your whole life. So when you wake up and there's nothing there, I got really depressed. Like, oh,
Well,
these pills are meant to cure my depression or at least get me back on track. And just having my body not working was mentally savage for me.
before we get into that, you had an experience with this experiment, so to speak, where you saw the efficacy of the pill,
Mm.
and it almost sounds like just because you got what you needed out of it, but then it seems like you just kind of got bored with being content,
Yeah.
and now you're dipping now it sounds like you like forgot how miserable you were before, and so maybe you want to like
Look,
go
now,
back into that waiting pool.
well, that's the thing. Like, I think I run a risk now of having high highs and low lows. Because I am having high highs at the moment. I am so much more driven. I am definitely more manic. I'm back to doing these podcasts and like speaking my mind and doing Monday morning rants on the podcast. And um, I can see that all of these high highs means that at some point I've got to have a low low. Like that's I'm not worried about it, but I know it's going to happen, and I'm just going to have to deal with it when it happens. Whereas I think if I was on the medication, I'd still be flatline in that I don't think I would be doing this podcast with you.
Yeah.
I
Do you
think, I could
do
agree
you
to it,
know
but I think the day that it comes where it's actually on, I probably would have sent you an email this morning, Matthew, and gone, oh, you know what? Actually, I'm not feeling too well. Can we postpone it? And that's what
I
I was doing.
don't make me complicit in your anti-pharmacology rant. Do you know anyone with bipolar who I'm speaking from limited experience, right?
Right.
And I'm going to do a series on just like 3 people, you and 2 other people that have a bipolar diagnosis.
Hmm.
So I'm not making claims about how bipolar works,
Sure.
but all 3 of you, when you're having your high highs or ramping, as Kanye West calls it, um, it has to do with like communication and ideas.
Yeah, it's
Do you know?
intense.
Do you know anyone with bipolar diagnosis where it's different kinds of work, different kinds of manic activity that's not just
Not
more.
just art or not just artistic.
Yeah, because that's been the common thing I've seen.
Yeah, I actually do. I actually do. The girl that I was talking about earlier that we did that experiment with, she isn't an artist as far as I know. No, she's not. And I think that's the thing. Like, I think if you go through, she's got bipolar one. So if we go through bipolar one, you know, the checklist for bipolar is like, uh, inflated self-esteem, right? I'm just looking at this list here. Inflated self-esteem, decreased need for sleep, more talkative than usual, flight of ideas, distractibility, increased goal-directed activity, which I look at all of these as a
It's
positive.
so funny hearing that because I
And
was the guy I talked to today. I was just like, chick, chick, chick.
check. Well, exactly. So I think people like yourself who, you just said that you did 4 podcasts today or 4 recordings, like you have some of these things, and some of these things are overly positive and necessary in order to be successful. So I looked at that and just that list, and I'm like, check. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this list? It's fine. It's how I've been living my life since
Well, I
being
mean,
aware
the
of it.
list isn't necessarily getting things done. If the list actually is more about abstract ideas, inflated planning, like it's about hypothetical things. And I just had this long conversation with this guy who is stuck in the hypothetical, how things
Right,
could be.
right,
He's
right,
turned
right, right.
he needs to get a job. Essentially, he might run out of money and be homeless because he's got a fairly debilitating, he's got some other trauma, so it's not just his diagnosis.
Mm.
And so he lives in that, like, what could be. And you want to create new art, and you're in this kind of moment where you're kind of thinking about artistic potential, which is dangerous because potential is not what is real.
It's not real, no. And that's the thing. Like I just did a big rant this morning. I wrote about a 5-minute read on advertising sucks. And I've spent my whole career as a graphic designer in advertising. And
Mm.
it's funny that when you're in something for so long and you're so passionate about it, it's really hard to take a step outside of yourself sometimes and look at yourself from a bigger picture. And for me to realize now after all these years that, like, why would I choose to be in advertising when nearly every single human being on the planet hates advertising?
Yeah,
Like,
most of us are aware of how manipulative it is.
yeah,
But
but
wait,
it's a weird.
what were we talking about just a moment ago?
Well, I think like what you're sort of interested in is maybe the choice, my choice of going back into a state of being manic
Yeah.
and
Well,
potentially inviting depression back into my life,
yeah.
potentially inviting all the dangers of what I was going through before, and now that
Well,
I'm not on the medication.
right before I make any suggestions about like if you should be on medication or not,
Mm,
what is, because I don't think I got a clear idea. So, what do you want to achieve throughout the next year? Is it
mm,
photography? Is it
right, right.
yeah, yeah. What exactly would you like to be doing?
I think primarily I want to get back to feeling like I can go 100% in on something. I think on the medication, there is no 100%. You don't you don't care anymore. Like I didn't care anymore. So it was almost like it's almost like how probably a pet when they get their balls snipped off, next thing you know they don't want to fuck anymore. And it's
Oh,
similar.
a
It's like
pig?
a pet, like a cat or a dog, you go and
Oh,
snip.
a pet. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
pets. Yeah, you go and snip their balls off, and then it changes them. And I feel like that's what the medication did to me. It's like I wasn't into anything. I wasn't obsessive compulsive about anything anymore. There were no spikes in how I was feeling. It was just another day, and I had routine. That's what it gave me. It gave me routine. I was sleeping every night. I was eating every day. I put all that weight back on. I went from 50 kilos to 67 in no time.
It really
So,
feels like a relationship the way that if someone and I'm not saying that you should be on meds or you shouldn't or that
mm,
what you're saying but it kind of sounds like when people if someone's in a relationship with someone they shouldn't be in when
mm,
you're in that relationship there's a certain magic that convinces you that everything is better even if like shit is going bad.
dude,
is,
look
is
at
there any truth to
abusive.
that?
Yeah, look at abusive relationships. Like I know a girl who is so strong, a woman. She's got a kid. She's so strong, and she's so inspiring. And she once told me that her previous husband was so abusive that every morning she'd wake up and he'd be like, "Get me breakfast, bitch," and just she would cry herself to sleep and wake up crying as well. And I couldn't fathom how this woman that I know, that is so independent, so powerful, so strong, could ever have been that person that she was before in that
Mm.
abusive relationship. It just didn't make sense to me. How can this amazing woman have been that woman? And I think you're bang on. Like I think sometimes you're in a relationship, you don't know how it crept up on you. She would have
But
just
bang on
slowly.
about your relationship with your brain and your bipolar.
Yeah, so I think
Because,
my
like, right now, you're like, this is good. I'll take the
mm,
lows as long as I can have the highs. But
yeah.
someone on the outside might be like, you're just
Yeah.
getting back with, like,
Yeah.
Brent, the asshole.
No, it's totally. It's like that movie, A Beautiful Mind, where Russell Crowe was like, he purposely starts throwing the medication away, and he starts to feel better, and he starts to have all these psychotic episodes again, and freaks everyone the fuck out. And towards
But
the
if
end
you
of it, he
remember,
realizes
he
he
got his
has to.
Nobel Prize for
Right.
work that he did when he was on medication.
That's
Actually, I
right.
don't
That's
know. I
no,
don't
no, no, no,
remember
no, no,
how the
no.
movie
That's
works.
exactly right. In the end, he does go back on it and accepts it. He accepts it. He accepts that I just need to have these little pills every day, and this is society. This is where I want to be. But for me personally, not being able to have high highs the past few years has just I can't do it. Like and I don't mean to look down on people that are really straight and quite on the path and straighty 180, but I do find those people a little bit boring. Like
Yeah.
that's going to sound really patronizing to a whole lot of people out there that have no problems, or their problems aren't huge. They're just everyday problems. But like I just think a whole lot of people that I was hanging out with when I was straightening up were really straight. And
When you
I,
were in that state as well as like on
yeah,
medication straight, were
yeah.
you bored with them at the same time?
I think in retrospect, I think a little bit. Yeah, I think that's going to really offend a whole lot of
But
people.
not in retrospect, because right now you're not on
Right now, well,
so like
exactly. But
while you were on medication and
I
like
don't hang out with anyone like that at the moment because I prefer to hang out with people that I can talk like like this with. Like
mm,
I prefer to talk openly and not be worried about not talking about this stuff because it might be making the other person across from me feel uncomfortable.
it is
So
cool that there's not um you don't have a third option, right? It's imperfect pharmacology or um, a slightly, you know, unhinged kind of self-destructive bipolar
yeah, I
existence.
haven't even Googled it, but even before I hopped on this podcast with you today, I was tempted to just Google, is there a cure for bipolar? Because I don't even know that much about it, to be honest. It's something that someone told me that I had. Like I've been living my whole life like this, so it's like I'm pretty sure I'm ADHD as well and all of that. Like It's just that I haven't bothered to do the tests to find out if I am or not, you know? Like for me
Hmm.
it's a label. It's like I have been living the same way my whole life, so now someone's telling me that you're this, and I'm just like, well, fuck. Like it's just one person telling me that I'm that, and they try to fix me, you know, with some chemicals. And I think I'm at a stage now where my gut react. You know how people talk about their gut feeling on things.
Hmm.
I think my intuition and my gut does tell me that, like, I can do this. I just need to keep some sort of resemblance of balance. I can't start smoking weed again and get to a point where I'm smoking an ounce a week again. I know that's not going to be good for me, you know.
The of the three people that I'm gonna pair this interview with, you are the quote unquote like most stable of them.
It's
I got
interesting,
a
right?
guy who might be homeless at the end of the year. I have
Right.
this one dude who's locked up right now, and he's got some
Fuck.
real big issues.
Holy
Um,
shit.
how does that feel for you to be the normal?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think I'm only normal because I'm going through a good bit right now. Like, I think if you were doing this podcast with me when I'm having a low, holy fuck. Like, I don't think there's anything you could say that would make me feel any better, because that's what it's like when you're at the bottom. It doesn't matter what anybody says, your mother, your best friends, your partner, nothing is going to change that feeling of wanting it all to just be over. Like, it's so hard to explain, but it's like the first thing you think when you wake up in the morning is like, I'm over it. I just over it, and it's heavy. It's like, for someone to feel like that every minute that they're awake is no wonder suicide exists. It's a real thing, you know? You're not open
Do you
to
think
love. You're not open to You get all the love all day from all your closest friends and family. They're trying to help you. They're giving you so much love, but it just deflects. You just deflect it all because they don't get it. They don't understand.
is that the biggest danger or challenge for the next year? A low where you feel suicidal?
I think that's probably I'm not scared of it, but I think I'm going to be better coping with it if it does happen. Like, I think I'm
Yeah.
going to be, I think now that I've gone through it, they say if go through something, a bit of adversity, you're only going to get better at it. You're only going to get stronger at it. So I think there's going to be a lot of warning signs. Like, I think I'm going to be really aware of getting into a bad place very early on this time around. It's going to be able, I don't think I'm going to be able to get that low overnight.
The other thing, the thing that really reminded me of my friend, the guy that I talked to earlier today,
Mm,
was he's got big aspirations about what he wants to do. And when I asked him specifically, he didn't have anything that clear. When I asked you artistically what you want, you said, "Oh, I want to get back to the feeling of going 100% at to something."
mm.
Um,
When
is
you
that because
feel
you don't have anything really in your sights that you want to go for, or is this a similarity where
it,
it's just the feeling of like
it is the feeling.
accomplishing?
It is the feeling because I've done so many successful businesses in the past, and you get to a point in sometimes in a business or a hobby where you're not into it anymore. So then you move on to the next hobby. So I think I'm concentrating more on the bare bones of what I do love about being successful and being in a business. What I love about it, when in retrospect, is the feeling of that obsessive compulsive nature of when I'm putting my head on the pillow at night, all I can think about is the thing that I'm working on.
And the things that you've done in the past is what multiple design studios.
Design studios, multiple
Uh,
communities as well. I've run a whole lot of communities.
well, first, so design studio means you make things for like products for like advertising and like communication
websites,
type stuff.
CD-ROMs, and multimedia presenters, print ads, and stuff like that. But in the late '90s, I created a design community. So forums were around before Facebook and all of that, you know. So I was,
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember your VW golf forum that was just
there you
for
go.
that car, which I thought
Yeah.
was really niche and specific.
Well,
Do
I've
you
run a
have a
whole lot of
favorite?
forums. I was
Was there any? I just think there might be something funny in here. Was there any like one thing on the VW golf forum that like was like a big event or like a big like controversy or something people debated a lot?
um always same with the
Like
Japanese. I
what?
mean, well, you hate
Like the
they hate Japanese cars, and then like it's up to me to be the forum moderator to inspire people to go, look, guys, like their Japanese cars have four wheels and an engine. So does your car. You guys are all into cars. Why the fuck are you hating each other for? You probably like could find some really good friends that are into a car that's not a Golf. But because you're so got the blinders on, you're like anyone who doesn't have a Golf is,
well,
you know,
what's up about a golf? Isn't a golf just kind of a normal car?
that's what I mean. It's like they're so like these are sports cars, these are dream cars for a lot of them. They're like dream cars. I'm like, a dream car for me when I was 10 years old, my dad put a poster on the wall of a Lamborghini Countach with a naked girl on the bonnet. I'm like, that's a sports car, not a hatchback. You know what hatchbacks are, guys? They're cars that make it easier for you to load your groceries into the boot. But I would
How come
say
you made a forum just for that though?
I was into them. I had a couple, I supercharged one of them, and I had one prepared for the racetrack. And that's the thing. Like I think when people geek out and like get obsessive compulsive about something, there is no logic. You throw the logic out the window. Like you should sleep more, you should eat more. No, I'm obsessed. I want to, put every dollar of my earnings into this
This
grocery get a car.
beat
Like
up your golf set.
it's not logic, it's passion. And it's like that's why when I was running a brand called Zen Garage, people just didn't understand why some of us were so into certain things. And our motto and our byline became, it's okay if you don't get it. And we meant it for real, because it's like, rather than sit there, guys, and hate us for being so passionate about what we're into, we didn't want to fight these people. We just wanted to say, hey, guys, it's okay if you don't understand why we're so crazy about this hobby.
Mm.
We didn't want to be offensive. We didn't want to fight. We were just like saying, we understand that you guys don't understand, but please just leave us alone. Let us geek out about this thing.
Yeah.
So,
So you missed that feeling that makes sense. I
feeling
mean,
alive, bro. That's what
getting
it is.
outside of well, in a weird way, it's getting outside of yourself. But at the same time, some of the mania is very self obsessed.
100%. I think that egotistical, self-centered. Like I remember when I was really going down into that hole, I reached out to a friend for help, and it was seriously reaching out too, because it was one-on-one time. I was just sitting at the kitchen in the kitchen bench and at her place, and she didn't want to hear it. She didn't really want to have a conversation about it, and she said, "Justin, you know what your problem is? Your ego. Your you your ego's too big, and you think you're so important. You have a problem.
Mm.
You're too self-important." And it really hurt to hear it. And for a long time, I took that as being factual and cut my ego down so much. And I, like I said earlier, I started to develop a lack of care for things, because when you start to cut your importance down, you start to cut the importance of everything down.
That's
Like,
a good line. I think there's some truth in that, and there's like bipolar. There is. I think Kanye West inadvertently did a good job of explaining the type of mania and ego that seems to be consistent through some people with bipolar, which is like Kanye West is all about himself, but he's gotten
mm,
really obsessed with Jesus and God
right.
at the same time. It's like this intense self-love, but also this intense like I'm just a
Respect for.
servant.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that
Interest.
resonate with you at all?
That's fascinating. Oh man, I could talk about religion for days. Like, holy shit, I am so anti-religious. But
Well, your
I
family was Buddhist, right? Or
well,
Buddhism, you're not necessarily fully practicing all the
it's
time, right?
yeah. Well, dad was, but my mum is she's a Catholic or Christian. I don't even know. She's one of them, but
Uh,
she goes to church every weekend, and she has church buddies over all the time. And I know a whole lot of them. I think they all think I'm the black sheep. They understand when they're praying and stuff. I'm the guy sitting there checking out my iPhone, and probably makes them feel bad. But I
no, it makes them feel good because it's like they're doing work and they're getting, into
they-
like,
they're not trying to convert me, which is, they know that if they start trying, I'll open my mouth and they don't want to hear it. Um, but yeah, I think that thing about Kanye is fascinating because I don't hate the guy. I kind of like his music, to be honest. And
oh, he's dope. He's one of the
yeah,
greatest producers. It's just a shame that he's going through some hard shit and his
I
support.
didn't know that. So I'd actually, after this podcast, I wouldn't mind googling some of that. Because I think he's obviously super talented. So he must be a kind of guy that has high highs and low lows. Like, it's for me, it's any artist that's putting themselves out there like that. Like, if you were
Well,
Kanye West and you woke up in the morning, there's probably 1,000 tweets that are paying you out. There's probably 1,000 comments on your Facebook video that, like, calling you names and wishing you death. And like, I think someone like him, for as much positive feedback he gets, there's just as much negative.
he on David Letterman has a show called My Next Guest Needs No Introduction,
Right.
and he had Kanye on it, and on that episode, Kanye was talking about how he is going off of meds,
Okay.
um, and so there might be some parallels to you. Um,
Good on him for
Con,
even opening up and saying that he's on meds, like,
it
for
was
someone
cool.
as
I
big as
mean,
him.
it's a very, it's a very interesting thing with a lot of different like meanings.
Mm. Oh, your audio just cut out, Matthew.
Oh shoot, sorry.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
There we go.
Hmm.
He's a provocateur, so he does stuff to piss people off intentionally. Um, but he also is going through like bipolar mania,
Okay.
and and so some of it's not intentional. And so like when he like supports Trump and whatever, sometimes it's hard to see like what's him going through something and what's him like just like being a celebrity.
Well, the sad
Um,
thing is, for people who don't understand it or don't know anyone who's going through it, when they find out that he's on medication, they're the kind of people that are like, "Oh, he's fucking crazy," like, and use it in a negative, derogatory way, like, "Oh,
mm-hmm.
that he's crazy," or he's crazy. Like, I remembered when I came out about being on medication and stuff on Zen Garage, one of my communities. I had a whole lot of kids in the comments, mostly guys, and when I clicked on their profiles, mostly young, in their 20s maybe, and a lot of guys were like, "Take your meds, you cunt," and I'm like, "Holy shit, I've just come put my heart on and opened up about being on medication," and people were like, "See you later, Zen Garage, I'm out of here, you've lost your mind," and stuff like that. And it's like,
And
wow, it's funny how there's that global "Are You Okay" day, and everyone on that day is sympathetic. Everyone on that day is asking you, "How are you okay?" But why is it only one day a year? It's insane.
yeah, I'm sorry that's hard.
But you get it. Like, and if I'm getting it, can you imagine someone like Kanye West, like, where people would be very quick to go, "Oh, he's lost his marbles," and actually say it in such a derogatory way. But it's not that they're saying it based off experience. They're just saying it because you're taught that, like, it's like how I was before. If you rehab's for quitters, or I used to wear a T-shirt that said "rehab is for quitters," um, but I didn't even know what rehab was. I've never been in rehab or knew anyone that had gone through rehab. So I was just a 20-year-old kid wearing this T-shirt because I thought it was tough and funny. So I think
Well,
there's
I
a lot
mean,
of that.
yeah, it's it gets a response. So your basic story is the arc of the story, just from like the outside, like this limited conversation is going to be like, will this photographer, um, creative dude who's getting off his meds,
Mm,
will he be okay for the next year, and will
yeah.
he accomplish what he says he will?
Mm,
um,
mm.
which is more of a feeling about. So it's not really about accomplishing something, but more just kind of diving into something, I guess. Do you
Yeah,
agree with that, or
yeah,
any
I do.
amendments?
I do. I think I don't look at the achievements as being um, the end game or the end goal anymore. I think I've spent a lot of my life making marks in the wall. Like when I've succeeded at something, I feel like I've put a feather in my cap or I've made another mark. And I think for a lot of my career and my life, I've always been hungry to make the next mark. I
Mm.
think
What are you doing now? You have the Patreon for your photography.
yeah,
Um,
I'm still running Zen Garage, so it's interesting. That's still alive, still selling
is Zen
t-shirts.
Garage just like car based advertising?
It's a car-based streetwear fashion label. So people wear the stuff and have a whole bunch of clothes. And it just got to a point with that brand where we were getting so big and making so many sales that people were wearing the t-shirt and doing really stupid things in it. And I'm like, I hated that because I was so passionate about the brand that it became
What does that level of success mean? Like
it was
at
horrible
that
for
point?
me. It was horrible for me. Like my business partners didn't understand why I was getting so upset about it because they were like, "Hey, we're making money. We're finally making money. Let's celebrate this, and let's get into department stores and fashion chains and let's just sell out." And I just couldn't do it at the time. I was so upset seeing kids wear it and not understand what the brand was about. But they were buying it because it was cool because somebody else was wearing it, and it really rubbed me up the wrong way. And I'll give you
But
perfect.
Zen Garage is still kicking though, right?
It's still kicking, but it's not like it's not a it's not a lucrative business. It doesn't make me my rent. Like my Patreon pays for my food. Zen Garage doesn't earn as much as my Patreon
Mm.
does. So, but I'm happier in it being a smaller underground brands where the people buying it now, they truly understand why they're buying it. And
Mm.
if anything, every time I meet someone cool, like I always meet new people, right? So I was coming over to my house. I go straight to the stock room and I just give them Zen stuff because I
Trying to get
like
just the cool people get to wear it.
exactly. I like these people. So if they're going to go out into the world and wear my stuff, I can rest easy at night knowing that they're representing my brand well.
How are you paying rent?
Oh, well, Patreon. I mean, I own this house. So that's
So
one
you don't
thing.
have a mortgage? It's all paid off.
No. I do have a mortgage, but the bank is my mother. So I used to be have this mortgage with the Westpac Bank, a huge bank in Australia, and I had some years there when I was running a design studio that I just didn't make enough money to quite comfortably pay off the mortgage. So my mother's wealthy, and she brought me up well. Like I think my whole family is wealthy, so everybody else that's my age or even like my cousins that are in their 20s, they're driving Mercs and stuff and they're rolling around like high rollers. But I was
Wait, your
born.
family comes from like old money?
Yeah, my grandmother was a refugee and she met a man who also was just extreme poverty, and they made it. They worked their asses off and started off with a textiles company, and in the
Mm.
end, they owned a Honda dealership in Indonesia and just made a mozza. He had two wives and a huge family. Um, my mum
Well,
had
so
the
it's
option.
cars. All the car thing kept passing through the generations, huh?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, my
Do you
dad was
feel
super
that
into cars too.
so that is like kind of like a family thing, like being into cars?
Um, Everything that my dad was into as a kid, when I was a kid, I thought was stupid. I didn't like it. But when my dad passed away at 18, I find it hilarious that I have gotten into everything that he was into. It's really weird.
What was he into
So
besides cars?
he was the first man in Sydney to sell a saltwater fish. So before him, all aquarium shops just had freshwater fish for sale, like goldfish and neon tetras and stuff. But my dad was the first person to create a license in Australia, or in Sydney at least, to sell fish from the ocean, like lionfish and clownfish and stuff. So he had an
Why
aquarium
why is that a hurdle?
because no one had done it before. Because running a saltwater tank it's different chemistry.
Oh, it's just the barrier to like
It's
having.
chemistry. It's like it was the unknown because a freshwater fish, you just get water from the tap, and marine fish, you had to use either salt, special salt, and mix up the water with tap water, or literally go out to the ocean and get buckets of water out of that. So it was he changed the industry. And I've been into aquariums for quite a long time now. I love them. So yeah, like I said, when I was a kid, I didn't think anything of it. Same with cars. He always changed his cars every year. I'm like, why the hell do you have to change your car every year? But he just loved them. And
And he was like, "Son, one day you will understand saltwater fish."
but yeah, it's just one of those funny things. And he was
That's
he was
wild. It just
yeah.
seems so funny to me because it's like I can't picture a world where um it just seems like a given. Like there would be like saltwater exotic fish
Yeah,
hanging
but it
out
is
in
now.
Australia.
Oh, it is now. But I mean, we're talking about 70s. So
That's funny.
that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
so
we
so
were talking about like how you pay rent and everything, and things seem
mm,
pretty stable because you have a couple jobs. Um, you transferred the mortgage to your mom so that you don't.
I don't
Uh,
have to pay her the same amount of money every year
oh, you
now.
mean your mom isn't charging you interest?
No, no, she's not. And that's the thing. Like, I had an interesting podcast the other day with a guy who is quite angry and jealous with how I run my businesses because, I've ditched sponsors before. And he came out in the podcast and said that was like a knife through his heart because he has to work so hard to get sponsors to make money. And then he's seeing me write about on social media that I've let go of a sponsor because my heart's not in it anymore. And he's
For
like,
what? What do you have a sponsor for?
I've had lots of sponsors over the years. For like, this particular sponsor was an international tire brand, and they were giving me, like sets of tires that were worth $4,000, and um, you know, giving me money every month to just promote the brand on social
Okay.
media and stuff. So I was getting good dosh, and he brought it up as a sore point because he's like, the difference between you and me is that I don't have a safety net, Justin, and you do. So you having a safety net, being my mum, to bail me out will prevent me from ever being a bum in the gutter and being homeless. And is jealous of that, which is totally understandable. Like, I have tried my best my whole life to not take advantage of the family situation. I was born in Australia. I wanted so hard to be accepted as an Asian person here, and I really wanted to earn my way through life. My first few businesses were all not for profit because I hated money. I still do. I have a thing against selling out. I have a thing against commercialism.
Yeah. So does it hurt when you realize that by hating money and like rejecting certain bits of money, you actually set up part of an economy that hurts other people?
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of the time, like a lot of my designer friends were like, "Fuck you, Justin. You doing design work for cheap or for free is fucking me up because I can't quote what I quote if you're doing it for free.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're just doing it for the love of it, Justin, fuck off because it's hurting the industry." And so I find myself like in this situation where, despite me trying to do things right, I'm still going to have a whole lot of people that don't like me because of how I'm doing it anyway, because I'm in a different situation. So I must feel like, what more do you want me to do? Like, you hate me because I've got a safety net, but what can I do about that? So I can just do my best. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm really stubborn about that kind of stuff. And I think, I have gone through phases where I've earned a shit ton of money and easily made six figures per year. And I was splashing the cash, and I've had lots of toys and lots of fun. And, you know, um, I've tried to do things right. And I bought a small property, then sold up, got a bigger one. And then finally this place that I'm in now. but yeah, I definitely have a safety net, and I think I'm not embarrassed by it. It's just one of those things. Like I was just born into it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't believe that I take advantage of it to a degree that I could, only because I wouldn't feel comfortable with it, you know.
Do you um I think we can abandon this. I wanted to check in with a couple of people that reached out to you, but it seems like
Mm.
the stories aren't actually that deep or
Well, no,
or
yeah, they're not. They're just ordinary people going through either maybe needing to reach out for professional help, or they're people who are on medication and wanting to get off it. There's I think it falls into those two people. And the people who are on medication, I'm not worried about at all. I think they understand where I'm coming from and they understand where they're at. But it's the
mm-hmm.
people who reach out to me that are falling into a depression, and they're calling it depression before getting a diagnosis on it. And that's the people that worry me the most. You know, young people hopping on Facebook saying, I've been suffering from depression for 4 months or 4 years. I'm like, have
Yeah.
you gone to a GP? Have you actually been diagnosed with anything? Are you on medication? And no, never. I'm like, well, fuck you for saying that you're depressed and you have depression, because you're talking shit. You don't even know. Like, do the right thing by yourself. And if you really do feel like you're suffering from depression, go and see your GP. Like, you need to get some help. You need to, if it's real, if you're talking about real depression, not just like self-diagnosed depression. I don't buy
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, like some people, we all go through like weird periods
Everyone
where
does.
it's but there is a difference. I've only experienced that once in my life, and it was a pretty spooky thing when I realized like what real depression was. And I was
Mm.
like, oh shit,
It
you go
exists,
through
yeah.
this.
It is real, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
used to think people were full of shit until I went through it. So that's why I don't buy that when I see a whole lot of people on social media, young people especially, saying that they're depressed and they have been suffering depression for 10 years or something. I'm like, have you got? That's the first thing I ask. Have you gone to get diagnosed, and have you gone to a GP? Are you on medication? And they always say no, no. I just know I have it. I was like, I I I just you know disvalue
yeah,
it straight away.
it's like maybe I mean we all like have like periods of like sadness or whatever.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm, mm.
and I don't think there's any harm in someone thinking that they're sadder than they actually are.
Emo people,
Because
gothic people, they're
I
all
mean
like,
they make okay music like half the time.
yeah. Emos, that's it, man. Like they all wear black head to toe, and
But no
like,
one's getting hurt from like people thinking they're worse than they actually are. Um,
yeah,
do you? I mean, I think we got a clear story to check back in on you because it's just
yeah,
like what's going to happen.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I like that. Yeah.
I mean, I do like that you have a support structure and that if things get bad, I hope that you're able to remember what it was like the first time because like I know that the drugs aren't perfect,
Mm.
um, but I'm not too scared that you're gonna fall to. But I
Me
don't know.
neither.
I
Me
don't know
neither.
you.
Look, I do think that if it got to a stage where the blinkers were on, and I think I'm so much more hyper aware now that I'm sharper than ever. So the whole, I remember being so stoned all day from smoking so much that, yeah, I was a very blunt instrument. So now being sharp, I think I'm more hyper aware of it. I'm not even having any sad or bad feelings, but I think I would be very aware of them. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that I would definitely hop back on medication if I felt like I needed it. And I think I would definitely go back and see my psychiatrist again and have another meeting with them and let them know that I'm starting to go through something and that I'm a little bit concerned about it. I think there's no way that overnight that I can feel as low as how I was feeling before. It's just impossible for it to happen overnight.
Well, life is incredible and can and is capable of anything.
Sure, like
Um,
shit happens, right?
like who knows how bad we can feel in the next year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
in the
yeah,
states,
yeah.
we got an election coming up, and the whole country's been getting torn
Oh God, I don't even want to
apart
talk about it.
already.
I'm getting torn apart by my local friends for having an opinion on American politics. I'm like, guys, I'm not the fucking enemy. Like people are arguing with me for having an opinion. I'm like, guys, I can't even vote. Like, stop hating on me. Like, please. Like, I'm just making fun of something. Or, but people are so serious that like it made me realize like I don't want any of these vibes. So I'm just not going to comment on politics anymore, especially American politics right now, because there's nothing I can do to change it.
I think we've lost the right to deserve your attention, but we're still going to be crying out for it,
Oh
at
yeah,
least
we
for the
we
next
we
month.
worry. Like we generally speaking, I think we worry for you guys. It's like we feel sorry. We feel sorry for the situation that you guys are in. It's like the politics has divided your whole country 50-50, and like one half hates the other half. It's like
Yeah,
what the
isn't it funny? Like
actual hell?
statistically, it seems almost like if you only have two choices, people will even out exactly at 50%.
Dude, they're calling it left or right, and it's like you first meet someone, you kind of almost want to know, are you left or right? It's like, why does that matter? I'm a human being. Like, let's have a coffee, let's have a conversation. But it's like, what? You can't have a conversation with someone that's on one side or the other? It's gotten nuts over there. So
Yeah, I think I'm guilty of that in some parts. I mean,
it's
mostly because like
crazy.
some really bad things have happened that like it's like you really support that guy after he did this.
Yeah, but it's
Like,
crazy because the person that you're talking to that supports the person you're against has so many other cool things in common with you outside of politics.
yeah, that's true. I interviewed a lady who is her boyfriend, which makes it sound young, but they're actually both in their 60s, and like she
Hmm.
found the love of her life, and he turned out he got really drawn into the QAnon theory,
Oh, I've heard
and
of that.
he's like a massive Trump supporter, and she's a very big leftist Democrat supporter.
Hmm.
Um, but she loves him so much, and
That's
like the whole
proof.
interview was just like, can you explain to me how you can love someone so much that it is okay with like the child separation policy at the border, or the Muslim ban, or whatever. Um,
Mm.
but she does a good job, and I hope that's a good episode. But anyway, speaking of episodes, um, I
Wrap it
think
up.
we've gotten pretty good. But yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about medication, and you gave a pretty good nuanced analysis of like you respect it, you also don't want it,
Mm.
you're in a position where you don't have great options, right? You have imperfect medicine, or you can live your life um, the way you want to and feel the strength of the emotions that you want.
Yeah, I think it's just hitting the reset button. That's all it is. I just rather than feeling for so many years like hitting the eject button, it's now a reset button, and I've hit the reset button. And if I feel at the moment like when you reboot your PC after not booting it up for a year or a few months, everything feels good again. Everything feels faster. The applications aren't crashing, and I just needed to reset my RAM, and I just feel a little bit like that right now. And yeah, who knows? Shit might build up again, but I'm like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm aware of it, and I'm sharper than I have been in a long time. Like I couldn't even have a conversation like this with you a year ago from now.
Well, I mean, that also might be evidence to the contrary. I mean, we've been rambling for an hour and 10 minutes,
Mm.
um, kind of jumping topics. So, like,
That's the manic nature.
I mean, is that evidence of good or evidence of bad?
Well, I prefer it. I prefer it to like me, like I said, if I was on the meds, or if I was um still smoking as much weed as I was, I think there's nothing wrong with me uh agreeing with you to do a podcast, but there's every likely chance that I would try to look for a way out of actually doing it at the very last minute.
Hmm.
And I think that that lack of energy and confidence, is so common in people who are abusing drugs, because you have good intentions. Like, yes, I want to do this. When someone asks you, hey, do you want to catch up next week? Yeah, for sure, man. See you next week. But then when it comes to next week and you've got the bong in front of you and you're smoking, you're like, I don't have the energy and will
Yeah.
to get there.
Well, I certainly am benefiting from it, and I don't envy your position. In this show, we jump 1 year into the future, which really isn't that long, even though it feels long. I would love to be able to jump 30, 50, 100 years into the future and see what we know about brains. And because bipolar 2, at least, is not necessarily that bad of a thing. It's just it's incompatible with certain aspects of life in the way that we have our society. Um, and I would love for you not to have to choose between living a robust, high impact life with being able to just have a okay life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, look, I don't, it's not sympathy that I have for people who have these kind of disorders and stuff. I don't think, like, as someone who has been diagnosed with bipolar, sympathy is the last thing that I want. It's not that. It's just like, I don't feel sorry for anyone who has been diagnosed with bipolar or depression. I think that, oh man, this is going to sound really cheesy, but there is a way to navigate through it. Um,
Hmm.
and finding that way is not necessarily easy, and a lot of people will be comfortable with just being on the medication and just realizing that maybe all I need is this little pill to be okay, so that's okay. And I think that's totally fine. But it's just, that's why I'm not suggesting people get off it. I'd hate for that to come across as the message. I just want to share my personal experience with this, and that I personally cannot be on medication because of how it just cuts off my high highs and low lows. And that is almost like my dictionary definition of living to me, is to have the high highs and the low lows. And I choose life. You know, it's
Yeah.
like
Well, I mean,
that's what I choose
that's
personally.
that's what neurally typical people have. We
The high
have
highs
high
and low lows.
highs and low
Correct.
lows, you
Correct.
know?
Correct. Correct.
Like speaking from experience.
Right, right, right. But can you imagine being on medication and having a low low, but actually it doesn't affect you in a human way? Like, you're not
Mhm.
humane enough to actually get upset about it. Like, you're almost nonchalant. Like, just say your cat dies and you're on medication. Maybe you'd be like, just get another cat. Like, I don't know. But that desensitization is pretty intense. That
Yeah.
level of not caring so much is pretty intense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We want medication. We want people with mental illness to have medication to make them normal, but
Mm,
currently that medication doesn't make them normal. It makes them a different kind of a stable kind of non-normal. And so it's just I just wish people had better options. I just wish we were
totally,
better at certain things.
totally. I think
Um,
meditation is probably a good option for a lot of people. Like, I've heard a lot about it. People suggested it so many times over the years, and I can't sit still. Like, it's just, I can't do it. I can't meditate. I've
yeah,
tried.
I talked to this one guy who was bipolar today all about that as well because the way he was describing his mania and whatnot, it sounds a lot like this dissociative disorder, which is basically like obsessive daydreaming. Earlier I
Yeah,
was talking about like living in a the realm of like what should be, what could be, the hypothetical realm.
yeah, yeah. I remember you mentioned.
Meditation
Yeah,
is just says fuck that. Meditation says you're not even gonna think. You're gonna live in the world. And so if you get into that, I bet you it'll help.
yeah. I'm
You say
sure.
you can't sit still, and maybe you
Oh,
can't, but
I
if
think I just need to practice it more. You know, you can't get good at meditation overnight, right? You need to practice that shit. So I think I do have some good people around me. I have two guys. I even met a guy last year that does hypnotherapy, and
well,
um,
that's cool.
Yeah, so I'm really curious about it. Like I still smoke cigarettes, and my mechanic um, has been one of the heaviest smokers that I've known. And one session with this guy, one hypnotherapy session with this guy, and my mechanic stopped smoking altogether.
Whoa,
So
you
I'm
kidding me?
I'm I'm very curious. I'm
When
very
did he do
curious.
this?
A year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago. Okay, a little bit too far away. If he had just done that, I'd be like, he sounds like a perfect subject for this weird show that I'm making to see if like the
Yeah.
hypnotherapy works.
Yeah, that's right. I'm very curious about it, but at the same time, this
He
hypnotherapy,
hasn't smoked in a year and a half.
not as far as I know, no. I should catch up with him and find out. I'm
That's so
I'm
cool.
very curious. But the hypnotherapist, a friend of mine, said to me that Justin, I'm more than willing to help you. I'm here for you. I can do hypnotherapy sessions with you to um, quit your smoking. But then he said to me, but you have to want to do it. So I'm here for you when you want to, when you think you're ready, when you want to do it, get in touch. And that fucked me up.
That makes
That just fucked,
sense.
but that fucked me up. It's like, it's not, what I was looking for was I'll do 1 hour with you and then I'm guaranteed to get off cigarettes. I kind of wanted that. I wanted that exchange. Like, here's my money, take my fucking money and make me stop, please. And for him to say that, I'm like, oh, that sounds like work to me.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
guaranteed.
funny.
So that put me off a little bit, but it's still floating around my brain, obviously, even speaking to you about it. So there you go. That's one thing that for your show in a year from now, I'd love to not be smoking cigarettes. That's
That would be a good thing. There's obvious health benefits.
hmm hmm
Yeah.
not that I want to live forever, but yeah, you know.
Well, you don't want to die miserable.
No, no, I don't think I will. I don't think I'm that kind of guy. I
Well, I
think
mean,
I'm.
if you're smoking, like death of lung cancer
Oh,
isn't
lung
pleasant.
cancer. Well, something's gonna kill you, so I think I'm pretty accepting of that. But yeah, I'm really not scared of death. Like, I think I never have been, and um, shit happens. I'm a real believer in shit happens. So if your time's up, your time's up. I don't think there's much you can do about it.
Well, your dad had that incredible fast. Um,
Yeah,
his
yeah.
his death is so quick.
Oh,
Yeah.
super quick. Yeah, super quick. Like, I don't think any kid hearing the news of, like, oh, your dad's got cancer. We opened him up. We found cancer. We just closed him back up again because it's so spread that there's nothing we can do about it. He's probably got about 7 to 10 days to go, and you're like, holy fuck! You can't prepare for that. Just like hits you like a 2-ton heavy thing. It's just like just not you don't know what to do. But especially back then, there was no internet. There was no research you could do. There was no one you could talk to, and you know,
Yeah.
even support for people who'd lost a family member back then. There was no therapist knocking on our door or anyone offering any kind of psychological help for us. Like, my mum locked herself up in her bedroom. I locked myself up in mine. Oh, well, I actually just got into drugs and went partying hard. And my sister locked herself up into her bedroom, and we never spoke as a family unit of three. With our dad, we couldn't speak to each other. We just had no way of dealing. We just had to
Mm.
navigate out of this pain by ourselves. Mum went to church. That's what she got, really religious. I went partying, and my sister just cocooned up.
Yeah.
So it's interesting in
That's hard to deal
retrospect.
with. How's
Mm.
she doing? I mean, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, my sister's still the same. Like, her and I have never really gotten along. It's really hard to talk to her openly like this about stuff. She's very emotional, so if we do bring up dad, she'll be the first to bawl out crying. She's got issues, and we've all got issues, all three of us. Just
Hmm.
just was never really resolved. Um,
How come it was up like between her and your dad, or
well, I
what
don't
were the
think
issues?
I don't think she has resolved my dad's death, and we
How quick
we
it was?
yeah, I think we've all been shaped by it, but in different ways. You know, so yeah,
Well, I hope you
completely
you
different
reach out
ways.
to your sister and have something over the next year, because
Yeah, yeah,
I have siblings, and yeah, I really feel a lot of connection to my siblings, even though we're not that ultra close or whatever. I feel like there's so much, I don't know.
it's still civil, right? Like there's still love there, yeah?
Well, it's more like I understand myself through them, and
Hmm,
so they're very important to me.
nice.
You know,
Yeah.
what's it like with your sister?
We because I was so into drugs and going through depression and stuff, she disowned me pretty much, and we never spoke for a very long time.
So
And
you've always felt like judged by her?
oh, absolutely, yeah. And you know, I in retrospect, I see that I wasn't a great brother at all because I was just busy, you know, doing my own shit and not
Just
caring
fucking
at all.
around.
Yeah, so I think, you know, after seeing some therapists and stuff, like I really tried to mend that, and I really tried to apologize. And so in the last couple of years, I've actually seen her quite a couple of times, and it's something, not nothing, you know. Like it's so good to see Mum so happy that at least we're not enemies anymore, you know. I think
Yeah.
it really hurt my mum so much to see that we gotten so bad to a point where we'd broken contact completely. So
What does your sister think about your photography and all like the sexual stuff?
she probably doesn't like that stuff, but you know, one of the first times I actually saw her again in the flesh, she was so happy that I was not smoking marijuana anymore, and you know, she's a real healthy person. So she was she said straight out to me that she was never going to talk to me again unless I did stop smoking or doing
Mm.
drugs. So that was her stance on it. And I, for the first time in my life, I actually understood it. I'm like, yeah, good on you. Like, I get that. You got two kids, you know, like, why would you want Uncle Justin to be in the corner there, like stoned off his head? You know, it's just not a nice feeling, like not safe for children. And
Well, I mean, it's not really about the drugs at that point. It's more about like she saw someone she presumably admire kind of disappear
yep, yep,
because of this. Because, you know,
yep.
most people know marijuana isn't the most dangerous drug in the
No,
world.
no, of course not. Of course not. No, I think just the abuse of something when you get to a point where you're abusing it, you know, the imbalance is so hard that yeah, it can't be good for you, you know. So
Mm.
I mean, you see it
Well,
with
I hope you
you know,
reconnect. I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
or
me
at
too.
least like understand because I was talking to for the pilot episode for this show. I have a feature on this lady whose dad essentially she got a traumatic brain injury and he basically never talked about it and was like really distant.
Mm,
And then he got remarried and was like then decided to become a dad like, you know, like way later on. And she was like, you can't do that, you know? And so like your sister had this like very formative thing where her
yeah,
older brother, someone
very
that
black and
she
white. Yeah,
probably wanted support and help from,
100%.
disappeared.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and you know, she was a graphic designer too earlier on in her career, so she did look up to me and admitted that. And you know, man, I just, you know, it's all so much clearer when you've hopped out of all that and the fog's gone away. Like I just can bring up so many times where I was a bad brother to her. So, you know, when I apologize, I truly meant it.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, you know, I'm obviously not hitting the eject button anytime soon. There's no choice in. I'm here for quite some time, so I've got time to mend it back up and make it back up to her. Hopefully,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
maybe in a year from now, we'll even talk to her.
Oh,
That might be
I
fun.
doubt she'd be cool with hopping on a podcast. She's the opposite of me in those regards, but
Well,
yeah,
you never know.
never.
It's
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, you never know.
some people talk to me that I'm always appreciative for anyone willing to spill their guts.
Yeah, to be
Uh,
open, it's not easy, especially if it's being recorded, right? So
well,
yeah,
it's also like some people aren't used to it, or it's about being ready,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
something I've learned that I
yeah.
need to get better at because it's hard. It's a different form of it's a different form of thought, right? So
It requires confidence. It really does, and a whole lot of people that aren't quite confident enough yet, they just struggle with doing anything that requires them to put an opinion out. You know,
mm,
um, it's easier for them to not say anything than to actually publish something. So, you know, I get that. I get
yeah.
that. All right, Matthew. Thanks for that. It was cool.
No, thank you. It was wonderful, and I don't need anything from you, right? You weren't recording a backup track,
So no, you don't need to
or
send me anything. I was just recording it. If I do upload this to the Zen podcast YouTube channel, would you prefer it to just be voice only? Like you don't want to be shown in the video?
I don't have a preference.
Yeah, because I
Um,
black and white my videos anyway, so it's a little bit, you know.
I might be looking. It looks like my shadow is pretty.
Yeah,
Um,
you'd look really dark in it actually. So I don't know if I'm
your choice. I don't have a preference.
okay. Cool. Yeah,
Whatever you think people
I'm
like
never
more.
too fast with the quality of the audio or the video at this stage. I think it's more about the content for me right now. So I think there were some juicy things that we said in there that, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this podcast, there's people out there that will actually really listen to this stuff and
Yeah, you're better at it than me. I appreciate anyone who can create and foster community. I think that's a beautiful thing.
yeah, I think they'll feel good about listening to, they'll take little bits from this and feel like they can deal a little bit better, and I kind of really like that. So
Hmm.
I don't have to work at it. I just have to be open, and if you ask me a question, I'm not going to sit there and systematically in my head figure out what I should and shouldn't say. I just say it, and I think that's what they like.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, man. Well, you have a good night, right? Because it's nighttime over there.
Yeah, but it's just about time for me to jump in my pajamas and watch some TV, relax a little bit.
Same. I'm in my pajamas. It's Sunday, so I'm not catching up with any mates today. You were the only thing on in my calendar today, so I'm gonna watch some TV and just sloth for the day.
Yeah, why not? All right. Well, thanks again. That was wonderful talking with you.
For sure, Matthew. Anytime. All the best, and I'll catch you around.